Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Not Your Average Josh back here for another movie review, and today I'm reviewing the movie coming out on June 30th, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, the new DreamWorks animation movie. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick non-spoiler review of that, but before I get into my review, I do want to say if you're watching this, please hit that like button below if you enjoyed this video, and also leave a comment down below if you have any thoughts on this movie or DreamWorks animation as a whole, or whatever you want to put down there. Also hit that subscribe button as well if this is your first time watching any of my videos, or if you're a returning viewer as well. Any support for this channel is very much appreciated. You can also follow me on TikTok and add me on Snapchat, where I will post content similar to this, but for the most part my content will be here on this YouTube channel, Not Your Average Josh. So again, I appreciate all the support that I get. But let's go ahead and get into this review for Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. This movie was directed by Kirk D'Amico and also co-directed by Farron Pearl, and the writing credits go to Pam Brady, Kirk D'Amico as well, Elliot DiGiuseppe, and Brian C. Brown. And this movie is about a shy adolescent who learns that she comes from a fabled royal family of legendary sea krakens and that her destiny lies in the depths of the waters, which is bigger than she could have ever imagined. This is a movie that I had a mild interest for. I've been seeing the trailers in the recent months, I guess at this point now, and it seemed like a movie that was a little bit geared more towards children, towards kids, but also seeing that it was DreamWorks animation, I knew that there definitely was probably going to be some fun to have for me as an adult. And look, I love some kids movies as well every now and then, but you know, it just seemed like a movie that was geared more towards kids. And I can say definitely a lot of the themes in this movie is for that, but more specifically, actually, more than I even expected, which I guess I should have thought of with Teenage Kraken being in the title, but it definitely is more geared towards older kids. Maybe I think like younger teenagers will enjoy this probably the most out of that group. But it is definitely a lot of elements here in this movie that you have seen before in animated movies, especially the whole family dynamic here, which I do really like. I thought they did mostly a good job with. You have, of course, Ruby Gillman here, played by Lana Condor. I believe that's how you say it. She did a really good job as Ruby. You have her in this dynamic she has with her mom, played by Toni Collette. Agatha Gillman is her name, and then you also have the father in here, played by Coleman Domingo as Arthur Gillman. And you also have the little brother here, Blue Chapman, who plays Sam Gillman. And I thought just their initial family dynamic is very enjoyable from the start. You definitely see the closeness that they have, especially between Ruby and her mom, the butting of heads at times, and it's really just a classic story of Ruby wants to start doing what she wants to do. She's a teenager. This coming of age story of she wants to go to the prom. That's really the main story this movie starts out with. And then you also have this idea that her and her family are Krakens that live on shore in the human world. They're really from the sea, but they're trying to live this normal life, and really kind of the separation starting to take place with Ruby and her mom. And just Ruby wanting to, again, just be more independent on her own. And then also she starts to discover more about herself and some lies that have been hidden from her. And it really starts to, again, continue to increase the separation really in this first half of the movie between her and her mom. And you also have Jane Fonda in here playing Ruby's, as they say it, grandmama. I thought she was really well casted here in this role. I really did enjoy this character of the grandmother who, another family member that is the mom of Ruby's mom. Another dynamic between the grandma and the mom butting heads here. And the grandmama wants, she's the queen of the Krakens, if you will. She's trying to get her granddaughter, Ruby, to basically take over once she is done and be like the new queen, I guess, if you will. And her mom, of course, has this huge problem with it. She brought her daughter, Ruby, and the whole family out to the human world so they could live a regular life. So you have this real major theme being played out through most of this movie. This movie's only about an hour and a half, so I thought pretty typical, even probably a little shorter nowadays than some animated movies. So the movie definitely flowed very nicely. Didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome or anything like that. And there was a lot of nice comedy in here throughout this. It definitely had several moments of that quick, almost like montage or sequence where a character might be explaining something, or a sequence of events is going in like almost like a fast forward motion, if you will, and just a lot of comedic moments are happening one after the other. They did a really good job with those type of moments. Trying to be vague here, not say any moments that happen in this movie too much, but just kind of going back to the cast, it was all pretty well done. No really major players here in the cast. I mean, you have Toni Collette and Jane Fonda in here, but there's not like it's a all-star cast like you'll see with some of these animated movies. But I thought everyone that was in here definitely played their role well. Will Forte in here as Gordon Lighthouse, this kind of older sea captain who is going after all types of sea creatures, but really mainly krakens, and then mermaids, which are brought into this movie as well. Will Forte is just really good in here. Almost every scene that his character was in, Gordon Lighthouse, was just pretty damn funny. He has this little crab that's on the side of him that almost is like a almost looking like Sebastian from The Little Mermaid at times, and they do play on The Little Mermaid a lot in this movie. Very funny with the live action version coming out at the beginning of this month. They have a lot of funny moments with that where they do almost like reversals in some ways of just referring to The Little Mermaid in certain ways, and so I thought that was really funny. And there's a character that comes along too who is almost of an Ariel type, played by Annie Murphy, called Chelsea, who is again they're really playing into that Ariel kind of type, almost doing a little bit in a lot of ways an opposite of Ariel, but she has the looks of what we know of Ariel, but just kind of the personality is very different. They play on that a lot, not just with that character, but throughout this movie. You also have her little friend group that goes to this school. Margot, played by Liza Koshy, and she is really good in this. I definitely knew I recognized the voice when her character first appeared. Then once knowing it's her, like, oh yeah, it's definitely Liza. Ramona Young as Bliss, and Eduardo Franco as Trev. And Eduardo Franco, who I know mostly from Stranger Things Season 4, playing Argyle. I did not recognize his voice or anything in this, but it's pretty cool to see him there because I thought he was at times, yeah, he was a little, did he have to be in this season when he was in Stranger Things, but I still pretty much enjoyed the character overall, and it's really cool to see him and other stuff now, recognizing him from that. Even having a nice comedic actor in here, Sam Richardson, who I've seen in plenty of things. I believe he was even on the show I watch on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, I Think You Should Leave is a really good, funny sketch comedy show on Netflix. There's a few seasons of that there that you can go watch, but Sam Richardson here as Uncle Brill. His character overall was pretty hit and miss, definitely compared to the other characters, I will say, but it's still nice to see him in this movie. The moments that he was funny, I definitely found some real enjoyment with this character. And really, yeah, the story overall, as I kind of already mentioned some of the themes, again, without, this movie comes out June 30th, so without getting into too much of the weeds or any spoiler territory or anything like that, a lot of themes and story elements you have seen before in movies like this. The coming of age story continues to blossom throughout. There's a really nice action scene near the end of this movie that almost was a little bit, almost like a different version of how The Little Mermaid is. Just with an action moment that happens where you have some mermaids and krakens involved in some action. I thought it was a really cool and well done action scene, and some of the music in this movie I really did enjoy for the most part as well. Every now and then you'll have a song that comes in. You'll have sort of a sequence where the song is playing over what is happening in the movie. You have that about 3 or 4 times in this. Most of the songs were all right. There was one that I really genuinely enjoyed and was kind of bobbing my head to. But the actual score, though, the music they use in this, along with the sound effects when like underwater and just different sequences throughout this little town of Oceanside. The way it ends, it has a very heartwarming ending. It'd be good for kids and families. There's definitely stories and lessons, again, that have been told before, but it's always good lessons to have as a kid and that people could probably take from this and watching it. And I did enjoy myself really overall. Again, coming in with very minor, mild expectations, not expecting too much, just hoping for the best. I didn't really know much about the cast or anything about this movie. I had a good time with it. It wasn't overly surprising, but I think it was a good watch. So I would definitely recommend it if you are interested in this movie at all, for sure. If there's no other movies out that interest you when this does come out, maybe you don't want to see the new Indiana Jones movie, go check it out maybe. If you have kids, this is a great family movie to go see. Enough humor in there to keep the adults entertained just enough. It's not overly amazing or anything like a Mario or something with the humor where you're constantly going to be laughing, but it has its moments throughout. And the visuals in this movie, the way they have this, I guess the bioluminescence, if you will, or whatever it is, the light that is on the Krakens in this movie, and even the mermaids at times, the little bit that you do see in this movie, the colors are really beautiful to see. The majority of the technical levels with this movie, I just found a pretty damn fair amount of enjoyment just throughout this movie. So a positive recommendation for me overall. As far as like any major negatives that stick out with this movie, there isn't really too much. I don't think this movie necessarily excels in any one area like an amazing way. I think does a lot of things really well. I guess really the one thing it's really within the story is you do have Ruby Gillman and her whole family that obviously look different than the rest of these people. And when there's shit that starts to happen, this huge Kraken that all these humans see at one point near the beginning of this movie, they're all like, oh my God, there's Kraken going on. And no one is ever suspicious of Ruby and her family. And it does seem a little weird. It's like no one's suspecting. Like they obviously look different than the humans, and they don't ever have a logical explanation as to why they wouldn't be suspicious. So that is definitely one, I guess, real probably negative for me. I think overall that took me out of it at certain moments where I'm like, okay, there's certain time going on here. How long would it take for people to figure out that these guys could potentially be Krakens? They're blue things. They don't even really look like people if you get up close to them. That part of it was like, okay, this is a kid's movie, but still, it's a little much there. And that's probably really my one main large negative. One thing that does fall more in like the mixed category for me with this is there is a moment in this movie with a certain character that seemed fairly predictable at what was going on. It involves Ruby, the main character. And I don't know, just for me personally, it'd be interesting to see what other people think. It felt very predictable to me as to where this was leading and what was actually being set up here. And so I'd be interested to see what people thought about that. It's definitely more in the mixed category. For right now, it could go to negative. There's just a lot of people. I don't know if it was maybe they didn't focus too much on it. Maybe it was meant to be predictable. That is really my main negative and mixed aspect. But other than that, mostly positives throughout this movie, I will say. But that's my main thoughts. I'm going to give Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken a 7.5 out of 10. Well, this was a really nice movie, and for a movie that's not getting a lot of hype that I'm really seeing, nobody really talking about it much, I think this would be a fairly decent surprise for a pretty good amount of people that go out and see this, especially families. But what do you guys think? Have you heard about this movie at all? Do you plan on going to see it? Do you not give a shit? What are your thoughts on DreamWorks animation as a whole? What's your favorite of it? Shrek, Kung Fu Panda movies, whatever. Put it down below. Also, leave a like if you did enjoy this video and hit that subscribe button as well if this is your first time watching any of my videos, or if you're a returning viewer as well. Any support for this channel is always very much appreciated. You can also follow me on TikTok and add me on Snapchat, where I will post content similar to this. But for the most part, my content will be here on this YouTube channel, Not Your Average Josh. So again, as always, I appreciate any support that I do get for this channel. Still trying to just build this up slowly but surely. Just do this when I have time. It's just a hobby of mine. I love doing it. I have a passion for movies and TV shows. We had a little bit of inclement weather here recently, severe weather, and the power was out for a couple days, so I'm a little bit further behind on certain things. Not that I'm on a huge time limit or anything like that. I was going to have my Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark review out a little bit sooner, but I'm going to try and get most of them out before I go see the newest Indiana Jones movie. If not, I'll probably end up just releasing them afterwards anyway, just to kind of finish up that film review series that I'm doing, just to go ahead and get it done. But other than that, I'll be looking for more videos very soon, a lot of new releases as well. That'll be it for now. I will talk to you guys later.